Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Oh,
Awesome, awesome. So I was on the call and I just realized I need to probably click bridge connect to webcast. So I just did that.
it looks like we might be on air, so hang on just a second. How about,
Oh, should I end the web?
yeah, just hang on for just a second. I'm going to text you instead. I'm going to put this on mute. Good afternoon. My name is Ashleah Edwards, and I am the 4th Judicial Circuit Representative for the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division. I'm often asked, what does the YLD do? And simply put, we're the workhorse of the Florida Bar, and we work hardest for our members. We do this by advocating for, educating, and serving Florida young lawyers. Some of these examples include producing all of the basic CLEs that young lawyers are required to take in their first 3 years of practice, and that includes practicing with professionalism. We've created a website, startmyfloridalawfirm.com, to help young lawyers learn the tools they need to start their own firm. And this past January, we launched the Florida YLD Legal Accelerator website. This is the one-stop hub for young lawyers to get answers to many common questions they'll encounter as they transition to the practice of law. Similar to Google, it's easily searchable and organized in a user-friendly manner. That's only a small fraction of the work that the YLD does, and we're your voice within the Florida Bar, so please make sure to share any ideas that you have, any opinions on topics that are important to you with your local YLD representative. If you want to know what the YLD can do for you, feel free to contact me anytime or visit our website at flayld.org. As some of you may know, this is the first of 5 health and wellness-related webinars in the month of May, in celebration of the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division's Health and Wellness Month. If you don't know already, the Florida Bar's YLD has prepared a host of challenges and materials that are health and wellness focused, so please feel free to go check those out. So today we have Samir Ghia, who will present a webinar called Personal Energy Management. Samir believes that every person has a unique mission in life. He believes that their true purpose is to identify and cultivate their greatest gifts, strengths, and passions, and then give them to the world in service of something bigger than themselves. He believes each person is capable of actualizing their highest potential and that true meaning, fulfillment, and happiness are present upon embarking on that journey. Samir received his undergraduate degree from Columbia University and his JD MBA from Stetson Law School. He practiced law in Florida from 2011 through 2017, most recently working at Greenberg Traurig in Miami. In 2017, Samir left the practice of law to build a personal development coaching and consulting platform where he works with his clients to align their lives with their deepest held values and helps them to live extraordinary lives both professionally and personally. Samir is open to answering questions during and after the presentation today, so please feel free to ask questions throughout. And with that, here is Samir Ghia on personal energy management.
Thank you so much, Ashleah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm really excited to be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be speaking with you about personal energy management for lawyers, how to kill it at your law firm without it killing you. So let's get started. We have tons of material to cover today, so I'm going to be moving quickly. And as Ashleah said, please type in any comments you have in the box below or questions, and we're going to do our best to address them. So this webinar is about personal energy management. This is so important because personal energy management, your energy levels are the key to you achieving your goals at your law firm. You know, whether it's signing more clients, billing more hours, getting promotion, winning more cases, whatever it is, the key to your success is optimizing your energy levels. And the way you can do that is with your sleep, your movement, your nutrition, and meditation. And something I want you to walk away with today is, what are some tools that you can use, implement in your life today to make a difference? So let's dive in. I'm here to serve you today. So I want this to be informational, but also fun. To provide some entertainment, but I want you to get a lot of good information today. Everything we're going to cover today is based in scientific fact and expert opinion. I recognize my audience today are all lawyers, and so I have evidence to back up everything I'm saying, and if you'd like to see any of that evidence, I'm happy to provide it to you. Feel free to email me or type in the questions. So what's the state of the bar? Where are we right now today? Lawyers across the country and in Florida are experiencing really high levels of depression, anxiety, stress, loneliness, and sleep deprivation. So this is caused by, we all know, I don't need to tell you, the adversarial nature of the profession. But one of my favorite quotes is, why is it so stressful to be a lawyer? Well, being a physician, being a doctor has stress. However, when the surgeon goes into the surgical suite to perform a surgery, they don't send another physician in to try to kill the patient. You know, they're all on the same team trying to do one job. In the legal profession, adversity is the nature of our game. So we're all aware of that. That contributes to the levels of stress, anxiety, sleep deprivation, loneliness, etc. Some other things that contribute are technology, the ubiquitous nature of our technology now. We're constantly on our phones. We never leave the office. Extremely demanding clients, standards of perfection, hours-based system. So we're always fighting the clock. We're always trying to justify our time. And there's a stigma and norms within the profession that say that, you know, alcohol use or sleep deprivation are kind of badges of honor, and we're not meant to talk about feelings of stress and anxiety. It's part of the culture of being a lawyer. So some of the problematic solutions that people turn to are, as I just mentioned, alcohol. And the problematic drinking levels of lawyers are off the charts. 1 in 3 lawyers is a problematic drinker. So that means if you're sitting there right now with some lawyers, look to your left, look to your right, and one of the persons to your left or your right or yourself is probably a problematic drinker. And this is crazy because the national average is only 6.8%. And also suicide is a major problem. We have the 4th highest suicide rate of all of the professions behind dentists, pharmacists, and doctors. So let's start with the basics of sleep. For every hour that you're awake, you need a half an hour of sleep. So if you're up for 16 hours, you need 8 hours of sleep. 19 hours, you need 8 hours of sleep. So that's how much time your body requires to recover. 50% of all Americans are chronically sleep deprived, and lawyers are the second most sleep deprived profession, even more so than doctors. Okay, so you really want to pay attention here. This is a major issue here for us as lawyers. So what's happening? We have circadian rhythms. 98% of our genetic code is tied to our circadian rhythms, which are basically our sleeping and waking cycles. And these cycles are tied to the rising and setting of the sun. We want to be very conscious of our circadian rhythms, and we don't want to violate them because, as I said, 90% of our genetic code is tied to them. If we're trying to optimize our energy and our performance, we want to make sure that we're optimizing our sleep. So the history of light is also something to consider. We didn't evolve to have these blue light emitting screens in our pocket in front of our faces 24 hours a day. You know, we had fire, and then we had the light bulb, and then we had televisions in the 1950s, and quickly we've moved from, fires where we would gather together as a tribe, as cavemen and cavewomen, but we weren't really up at night. We weren't out wandering around at night because we would have been prey. So we evolved to really be sleeping at night when it's dark for our bodies to be, restoring, shut down, resting, not to be up all night on these devices, not sleeping. We also want to get present to the fact that sleep is a necessity. It's a biological necessity. It's not a luxury. The more we can appreciate that, the more we will prioritize our sleep and optimize our energy levels. So let's make the connection between energy, how you feel on a day-to-day basis, and how much sleep you've gotten or you're getting. How do you feel after you've gotten 9 hours of sleep versus 8 versus 7 versus 6 versus 5? We've all been there. Make that connection. Right? What's your mood like? What's your energy level like? What's your level of optimism like? How do you feel about commuting with other people, communicating with other people and your clients? You're not going to be the best lawyer you can be if your energy level is not maximized. So those are the short-term impacts, but there are some really serious long-term impacts of sleep deprivation on our health. And last year, the World Health Organization actually called sleep deprivation a probable carcinogen. right? So it's linked strongly with cancer. They did a meta-analysis of night shift workers across the world. And what they found is people who habitually and chronically violate their circadian rhythms, they're staying up all night, are highly correlated with getting cancer. And it's very highly correlated with for women and specifically for breast cancer. So pay attention to that. We don't want to be doing that. There's a high correlation with depression and with diminishment of active recall of our memory. Although interestingly, although all of our memory recall is diminished, we have a tendency to remember the negative things better than the positive things when we're sleep deprived. What does that look like? It sounds like a recipe for unhappiness and for depression. If you're only remembering negative things, that's the lens through which you're seeing the world. There's also a strong link with Alzheimer's because our brain produces more beta amyloid, which is a toxic protein, increased appetite, which leads to obesity, which leads to all the chronic diseases we're going to talk about later, and also impairs our driving ability. So recognize that if you're up for 24 hours straight, it's the equivalent of having a BAC of 0.10, which is essentially 25% above the legal limit for driving. So if you're pulling an all-nighter, you're working a lot, be careful when you're driving. What are the top 10 things that get in the way of our sleep? What's keeping us from sleeping? So I call this kryptonite or sirens. Kryptonite was the compound that took Superman's superpowers away. And sirens from ancient Greek mythology, the beautiful creatures that sang these songs that drew the ship captains from the safety of the open waters to the shores. And eventually they would shipwreck and be taken prisoner by these beautiful sirens. So what are your sirens? What are calling you away from getting a good night of sleep? The top 10 for most people are like a lack of purpose, a lack of reason for going to bed at night, and therefore you won't get up in the morning. Recognizing that sleep is, thinking that sleep's a luxury as opposed to a necessity, using your screens, caffeine, alcohol, and tobacco intake, eating late at night, exercising late in the day, and having inconsistent sleep schedules. But the number one reason that people don't sleep well listed here is anxiety. And, you know, we could do an entire week on anxiety and how to mitigate anxiety. It's a little bit outside the scope of this talk, but just be aware that that's one of the reasons. So let's set some curfews. Let's start with how many hours of sleep do we want to be getting? The average person needs 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep for optimal health. So if that's the case, think about working backwards from that point. What time do you have to get up in the morning, go back 8 hours, and then from there start setting your curfews. For caffeine, 6 to 8 hours before. The half-life of caffeine is 6 to 8 hours, meaning if there's 100 milligrams of caffeine in a cup of coffee, 6 to 8 hours later, you still have 50 milligrams of caffeine biologically available in your system that's going to prevent you from getting the same sleep, the quality of sleep that you should because of its stimulating effects. Exercise, 4 hours. Exercise is great to do. It's best to do in the morning. Exercise raises your core body temperature, which makes it more difficult for you to sleep. There's a high correlation between insomnia and insomniacs and high body temperature. So what you want to be doing is exercising earlier in the day, getting all the benefits, and ideally not late at night. The lower your core body temperature, the better you're going to sleep through the night. Alcohol, although alcohol can make it easy to fall asleep, it interrupts your sleep and you don't get deep restorative sleep. So ideally you want to cut that off 3 hours before bed. Big meals, you know, digestion requires a lot of energy. So you really want your body to be restoring and repairing and recovering as opposed to digesting food in your stomach all night. And your screens you want to shut down 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed. Your sanctuary, your bedroom, something that your bedroom should be 3 things: cool, dark, and mellow. The ideal sleeping temperature is 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So if your thermostat in your bedroom is anything above 68, you're not getting the ideal sleep that you should be getting. You want your room to be dark as possible. Blackout shades, whatever you can do. So we all know that, you know, light interrupts our sleeping and interrupts our circadian rhythms because it messes with our melatonin. But most people don't know that your skin cells actually have light receptors in them. So just because your eyes are closed and you're wearing an eye mask doesn't mean that you're necessarily getting the ideal sleep that you should be getting. Your melatonin could still be interrupted by light if light is hitting your skin. So you really want your room to be as dark as possible. And mellow, right? You want to associate your bedroom and your bed with just 2 things, with sex and with sleep. You don't want to be bringing your laptop into bed, sending client emails, doing doc review, whatever, reading contracts. If you want to associate your bedroom with rest and recovery, not with work. So some things we want to do is develop rituals. The word ritual comes from Latin ritus, which means a proven way of doing something. So what are some proven ways of doing things for you that help you to get the best night of sleep? They may be taking a hot bath or a hot shower, which is great at night because it raises your core body temperature. Then you go back into your room that's at 65 degrees and it drops significantly, and then you sleep better. It could be drinking some herbal tea, reading some relaxing material, listening to music. But you want to create a buffer zone between being intense and working hard all day long and then shutting down and restoring at night. So you want to kind of create a buffer where you're transitioning from intensity to relaxation. Magic times. All hours are not created equal. This is a really cool concept. So if you're sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., that's 8 hours. But that's not the same 8 hours if you sleep from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. And the reason is the closer you are to sunrise, the more your body puts you into REM sleep. REM sleep is light, dream-like sleep. And it's not as restorative as non-REM sleep, which is your deep restorative sleep. So like hours are not the same, even though the quantity of hours, 8 hours, is the same. So the earlier you can go to bed, the further away from sunrise you can go to bed, the better. It's much better to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier because you're getting more quality sleep for the same amount of time. And consistency. The more you can make consistent sleep times, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, the better off you're going to be. All right, so let's take a look at this group of incredible individuals. We've got Churchill, Da Vinci, Edison, Dolly, Einstein, Rockefeller, Clinton, Napoleon, JFK. So what do all these people have in common? Just think to yourself, what do these people have in common? That's right, they're all about that nap life, right? Here we have Thomas Edison napping, Einstein, the Clintons, Biden, JFK, LBJ, Napoleon up there. So napping is an incredible tool that you can use during the day to restore your energy levels. Napping has tons of benefits, which we're going to talk about. They improve your creativity, your mood, your sleep, and they help you to avoid burnout. So as long as you're not napping within 3 hours of going to bed, it's going to help you sleep better at night. And you only really need 20 minutes for a full restorative nap session. We're the only animals, humans, that try to get all of their sleep in one shot. We try to be monophasic. All the other animals in nature are multiphasic. Think about it. If you have dogs or cats, you see them napping throughout the day. Here we have some polar bears taking a nap in the image. But all the other animals in nature are multiphasic. So we want to sort of honor our roots, honor our animal needs, our biological needs, and take naps if possible. And I know you're thinking, like, how can I possibly take a nap? I'm so busy. I'm doing so many important things as a lawyer. If those people on that last page found the time to nap, I think you could probably try that as well. There are some things you can do. You could close your door in your office. You could lock the door. You could print out a sign that says, "Do not disturb, deposition in progress." There are a bunch of cool tools and tricks you can use. Also want to look at sexta. Sexta is Latin for 6th hour. In ancient Rome, they had something called sexta, and that was the 6th hour at which time everyone would retire and take a nap. Everyone would go home from work. The Senate broke for a sexta, for a nap, and essentially that 6th hour meant noon because they started counting their hours from 6 a.m. So noon was the 6th hour, time for nap. That has transformed and is now known as the siesta, which is still prevalent in many, many countries. So there are some things we can do that are going to help us to rest that aren't actually sleep. So active rest is recovering while we're awake. We want to do this because we talked about circadian rhythms, but we also have something called ultradian rhythms. And these are rhythms that we cycle through during the day, inside of the day. We can only really be at maximum intense focus for 60 to 90 minutes before we need to recover and rest. And if we don't do this, we're going to burn out. So every 60 to 90 minutes, give yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes, get up, walk around, get away from looking at your computer, leave your phone in your office, go for a little stroll, go talk to a friend. But you want to really cycle, you want to oscillate between being intensely on and then intensely off throughout the day. This is the way all the great performers perform, whether it's writers, musicians, athletes, appreciate oscillation, appreciate cycling on and off. And there are different kinds of rest. So there are some kinds of rest that are release dopamine and other kinds that release serotonin. And the kinds that release dopamine are actually not that restorative. Those would be things that actually are intense and engaging. They would be like watching videos, using your phone, going on social media. Anything kind of technology related is going to be spiking your dopamine, and that's not actually recovery in the same sense that serotonin-inducing behaviors are. So those would be like breathing, walking, exercising, listening to music, connecting with friends and family in person or a phone call would be second best, journaling, and connecting with yourself. So the goal, like, see if you can add 1 hour of sleep to your night, and that's enough for most people. You're probably in the range of 5, 6, 7. If you can do a couple of things to add 1 hour, you're going to be in great shape. But where does that hour come from? Think about something you're willing to give up. What is your kryptonite? What are your sirens? What are your distractions? You know, you want to think about it. Maybe we'd be willing to trade 1 hour of entertainment for 1 hour of extra sleep. You know, trade your entertainment for enlightenment and see how that goes. This idea will improve your health, energy, mood, and productivity. So I want to move on to movement now, and the importance of movement and exercise. Move your DNA. We all have between 15 and 70 trillion cells in our bodies, and they all respond to movement. We were made to move evolutionarily. As cavemen and cave women, we were moving and active 8 hours per day, and now we consider ourselves champions if we go to the gym every single day for 1 hour. We think we're active, but we're not compared to our ancestors and our biological needs. So I want to make the distinction here between movement and exercise. Think of exercise as a subset, a subcategory of movement. So yes, exercise is important. We definitely want to be exercising, but more importantly, we want to be moving throughout the day, perpetually moving as much as possible, active as much as possible, because we can be active and sedentary. It's possible that you wake up in the morning, sit in your car, drive to the gym, do a workout, then you sit in your car, drive home, go to the office where you sit in your car, sit in your office all day, drive home, sit down, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed. So you're active, right? You went to the gym, but you're actually sedentary all day. So we want to be conscious of that. We want to be moving as much as possible throughout the day. We want to make the connection between why we're moving, why we're exercising, and the benefits. The right why would be something that's concrete, something that's immediate. So, you know, there are studies done and people that have the right why versus the wrong why. The right why is, you know, I want to feel great today. I'm going to have a better day. I'll have more energy. I'm going to, you know, have all the rush from the endorphins. And that's something that makes me feel good right now, today. It's concrete, it's immediate. Versus the wrong why, which is something intangible, something off in the distance in the future. And that's just less compelling. People don't stick with new habits that way. So the right why is important for building habits. We also want to move perceptually from a chore to a gift. We want to reframe this, reinterpret it. You know, it's not something that I have to do. I have to go exercise, or I have to take the stairs. You know, give this gift to yourself. Reinterpret it. This is something you're doing for yourself, for your body, so that you feel better now, and also so that you have optimal energy levels so you can be more, so you can give more to your firm, to your family, to your husband or wife, to whoever. And also we want to adopt a growth mindset. This is also popular in all the literature on building habits, and that is like, don't judge yourself. Don't get all up in your stuff if you're missing workouts or you're not moving as much as you should. You know, take an experimenter's mindset. Put on your lab coat, be a scientist, try new things, see how that works, and then just modify it a little bit and keep playing with it. So exercise is a magic pill because it boosts your energy, mood, relationships, willpower, creativity, nutrition, strength, attractiveness, optimism, productivity, enhances your epigenetics, and enhances your sleep. The great thing about exercise is there are no side effects, no negative side effects. Some of the psychological benefits, though, of exercise are that they balance your neurotransmitters. So it improves your focus and improves your mood for 12 hours after you exercise. And so John Rady, who's a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, said, exercising is like taking a little bit of Ritalin and a little bit of Prozac. So why not take that every single morning? Give yourself give yourself those benefits of focus and enhanced mood. You're going to be a better lawyer, you're going to be happier, you're going to be a better overall human being, not to mention all the health benefits. There was a groundbreaking research study done at Duke in 2000 that found that exercising is actually more effective than Zoloft for reducing the symptoms of depression. So what they did is they took 3 groups of people who were massively depressed, and they each gave each group a prescription. So one group took Zoloft, one group exercised, and one group did both. What they found was 10 months after the study was over, they checked in with the participants, and the group that had just exercised, no Zoloft, just exercised, had the best results and the least amount of symptoms of depression. So think about that. No side effects, all natural, on top of all the other benefits you get. So we talked about kind of perpetually moving throughout the day. Look for your opportunities to move. And in the literature, this is called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. What this means is you're not exercising, but you're still activating your body's thermogenetic response. And that has tremendous benefits. You can do this at any point throughout the day. Look for your little opportunities. So like we talked about, take the stairs, park further away from where you're going and walk. You want to be dynamic throughout the day. A lot of us have at our law firms these standing desks, which are great. And I applaud the effort, but the concept is we don't just want to be standing all day either. Why? Because that's static. We want to be standing and sitting. We want to be dynamic throughout the day. We want to at least be standing 32 times per day is what the experts tell us. Whether you have a standing desk or not, make sure that you're actually dynamic and moving. Another really important thing is just to walk. We were biomechanically designed to walk. The way that our hip bones are structured, the way that we walk around upright, the fact that we have stronger and thicker legs than our primate ancestors, it shows that we're designed to walk. And the Ilcabamba tribe in Ecuador, which has some of the oldest living people on earth, they have a saying, and that is, if you're not feeling well, you have 2 doctors, your left foot and your right foot. So essentially, if you're not feeling good, go for a walk. All right, still not feeling good, walk some more. We want to spread this out as much as possible throughout the day. It's better to walk 1 mile 3 different times in the day than 3 miles at once. And look at this in like the same thing for your exercise. It's better to go to the gym every single day for 30 or 40 minutes as opposed to going once or twice a week and absolutely killing yourself for 2 hours. Something else we can do is if we want to improve something, we need to measure it. And this is very simple. We all have smartphones in our pockets with the capability and the apps already on there to measure how many steps we're taking during the day. So anything you want to improve, just measure it. Just start looking at that. You don't even have to do anything to consciously improve. Just by noticing, just by measuring, it improves itself. It's really cool. It's kind of a performance hack. So we talked about consistency over intensity. Build momentum and track record. Like track it on your calendar. See how many days in a row you can get so many steps, or go to the gym, or take the stairs instead of the elevator at your office, whatever it is, and create these little wins. And then celebrate your wins. Enjoy it. And most importantly, gamify it. Like make it fun. Do what you love to do with the people that you love to do it with. So don't do things you don't like. You're not going to stick with it. You won't be consistent. Do what you love. Set an example for people in your life, for your kids, for your friends, etc. So I want to move on to meditation. Meditation is an ancient practice. Goes back thousands of years, and it can be found all over the world in different cultures and civilizations. It's not tied to any particular religion or society. And essentially, prayers in every religion are a form of meditation. It's very accessible. I really want you to get that, yes, you can meditate. You can build this practice into your life. It's doable. And for lawyers, it's extremely important, I think. Because of the nature of the profession, it's very important to be able to quiet down, be alone with our thoughts, and connect with ourselves. So it's also the most powerful mind training tool on the planet. We're going to talk about the specific benefits, but training your mind is really your greatest asset, your greatest tool as a human being, and especially as a lawyer. And now more than ever, we really need to get quiet and to connect with ourselves. because of the constant levels of distraction in society, the kind of discourse that's going on, and the ubiquity of our technology, it's important that we can disconnect and reconnect. So I wanted to read this quote. Meditation is like the other magic pill besides exercise, because it's sort of like it's a meta hack. It does so many things in your life. So suppose you read about a pill you could take once a day to reduce anxiety, increase your contentment. Would you take it? Suppose further the pill has a great variety of side effects, all good. Increase self-esteem, empathy, and trust. It improves memory. Finally, the pill is natural, it costs nothing. Would you take it? The pill exists, it's meditation. So the reason I put up John's picture here, John Haidt, is because he's a conservative scientist. He was trained at Yale, got his PhD at University of Pennsylvania, and now he's a professor at Stern at NYU. And this is his quote. And so the concept is, this isn't some woo-woo, hippie, yogi, Zen Buddhist quote from someone sitting levitating in the Himalayas, right? This is a conservative scientist in New York City, Ivy League trained, and he's telling you meditation has all these benefits. So it's real. Let's look at those benefits again. Strength training for your mind, improves your willpower, optimize your immune system and de-stress your body, slows down aging, has epigenetic benefits, and it helps you to connect. So training your mind. The greatest asset you have as a human being and as a lawyer is the ability to put your mind where you want and when you want. Being able to focus, to concentrate, and to control your attention is a tremendous skill. So meditation is like anaerobic strength training for your attention muscles. It's literally taking your mind to the gym and working out. Every time you meditate, it's a workout for your mind. And a common practice in meditation is having an anchor. And when you notice your mind wanders from the anchor, which is either counting breaths or a mantra, whatever you choose, then you pull your attention back to that anchor and think of that as like doing a repetition. That's like a bicep curl for the gray matter in your mind. It's going to help you to resist impulsive behaviors and not do the things that you know you shouldn't be doing. And it also increases your awareness. It allows you to step in between stimulus and response in the moment as it's happening. So the difference between knowledge and awareness, you can do something wrong, right, and regret it. And you'll say, I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I did it anyway. Awareness is that thing that lets you not do what you shouldn't do. It lets you step in between your reaction and choose an empowered response in the moment. And so once you start meditating, trust me, you're going to have to apologize to the people in your life a lot less. So willpower. Let's start with what is willpower. Willpower is like the ability to delay gratification or to resist short-term temptations in order to meet long-term goals. It's the capacity to override an unwanted thought, feeling, or impulse. That sounds pretty good, right? We all want the ability to override unwanted things in our minds. That's exactly what willpower is. So 27% of people say that willpower is their greatest obstacle to achieving their goals. If you can increase your willpower, you will increase your ability to hit your goals. Willpower outpredicts IQ for success by a factor of 2. So if you know someone's willpower level and someone's IQ, their intelligence, their willpower is going to outpredict their ability to achieve their goals and achieve success by a power of 2. It's 2 times more predictive. It allows you to do what you know you should do when you should do it, and it helps you to choose an optimal response in the moment. So meditation also helps you to de-stress your body. Here, there's a picture of Herbert Benson, Dr. Herbert Benson, who is Professor Emeritus at Harvard Medical School. He has an entire building named after him. He's been studying meditation at Harvard for over 40 years. Here he's with the Dalai Lama, and he discovered something called the relaxation response, RR. And essentially what that is that meditation reduces, and he's proved this in labs scientifically for decades, meditation reduces your rate of breathing, your heart rate, and your brain activity. So these are basically biological markers that show your body is fighting stress, is counteracting physical stress in your body. And we know 60 to 90% of all doctor visits are stress-related. So just by meditating, you're reducing that stress response in your body, and you're much, much healthier overall, because we know stress leads to so many diseases, both psychologically and physically. Meditation also helps you to optimize your immune system. It stimulates activity in your immune system's command center in your brain, which is your prefrontal cortex, your right anterior insula, and your right hippocampus. It helps you to boost antibodies to fight diseases and infections, and also reduces your inflammation response. So meditation also can slow down the aging process. How? We all have these things called telomeres. Telomeres are like the plastic ends on your shoelaces. And what they do is protect the chromosomes and your DNA every time your cells split and replicate. So normally every time your cells split and replicate, your telomeres, the shoelace caps, get a little bit shorter, and that's essentially the aging process. Once they get down to zero, the cell is no longer senescent and it can no longer reproduce. It's essentially dead. So it was discovered last year in a study that meditating actually stimulates cells that produce an enzyme called telomerase. The telomerase basically protects those shoelace caps from shortening as quickly. So by meditating, you're making this enzyme, the enzyme's protecting your cells from aging so they can age longer, and you're basically, literally, factually, scientifically extending the lifespan of your chromosomes. So you're slowing down the aging process by meditating. What else? Epigenetics. So epigenetics is the study of how environment and individual lifestyle choices can directly influence your genetic expression. So these changes in your genetic expression, they can be reflected at various stages throughout your life. So you'll notice them in your life, but they can also be noticed in your future offspring. So by meditating, you could be enhancing the genetic expression of your genes and then pass them on to future generations, that enhanced expression. Meditation turns on the healthy expression of genes and off the unhealthy expression of genes. So we have 52,000 different genes which are susceptible to a healthy or an unhealthy expression. Meditation flips the on switch for the healthy expression for all of them. Meditation also reduces inflammation in our bodies. Inflammation is basically the precursor and leads to all of the chronic diseases. There are some here listed on the image: cancer, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, allergies. Pretty much anything you can think of is a result of inflammation. So we can reduce that inflammation response in our bodies with meditation. We're going to be healthy overall. And it speeds up your physical recovery from stress. So again, if we want to build a new habit, we want to look at the why, make that connection. It's going to make us feel better, more grounded, more present, more connected with others, more connected with ourselves, more connected with something higher than ourselves. And we want to realize we're just going to feel better that day if we meditate than if we don't. There are all those health benefits that we talked about, which are real, but you really want to connect it to how you're feeling that day if you're in the process of installing a new habit. We want to move from a chore to a gift. It's not something that you have to do. It's something that you get to do, that you give to yourself. You're honoring yourself and recognize the immediate benefits for your practice as a lawyer as well as in your personal life. All right, I want to move on to eating and setting the table. Where are we with eating and with nutrition? There's so much stuff out there. It's difficult because it's a challenging new science. There's seemingly contradictory information coming out of different sources that seem to support diametrically opposed information and advice. And we're also overwhelmed with advice on the internet and in magazines and in emails and blogs about what we should eat, what we should not eat, what's the latest diet trend, what works, what doesn't work. It seems to be switching on us a lot. So we need to recognize that the science of nutrition is a relatively young science. It's kind of like where surgery was in 1650. And like this guy on the table here, you probably would not want them performing surgery on you. What we want to do is be careful not to cherry pick. We don't want to have a preference or an outcome in mind and then find the research or the experts that seem to support that position. We want to be very careful. So what we're going to do today in this next portion of the webinar is focus on areas of agreement. What do all the experts kind of agree on? What is the science of nutrition, although young, what has it given us that we can use and implement into our lives to optimize our energy and our health with the things that we're putting in our mouths. So if we wanted to get very, very simple and break it down, we could look at this quote from Michael Pollan, who is a food author. He wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma and lots of other great stuff. We want to look at this quote. He wrote 7 words, and it's essentially everything you need to know. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So let's look at that. Eat food. He's saying actual food, real food, not food that's made in factories, that's been manufactured, that has 1,000 ingredients with chemical names that you couldn't pronounce. We want to eat real food. Not too much. We want to eat in moderation, obviously, and mostly plants. It seems pretty clear. All the experts are saying animal products really, really are not great for us. So, you know, the more you can switch to a plant-based diet, to eating less and less animal products, the healthier you're going to be overall. Personally, I made a commitment this year to eating less meat and more vegetables and fruits, and just kind of working on that balance slowly. I'm not saying doing something crazy or drastic, but think about how you could incorporate more plants into your diet and less animal products. 2 major facts that we are sure about that seems just clear from the research done around the world is that when the Western diet is in place, chronic disease exists and is prevalent. So chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, depression, cancer, etc. And then the opposite is also true. When there is no Western diet in place, we don't see these same levels of the chronic diseases, rather. So what is the Western diet? It's also known as the modern American diet, MAD, or the standard American diet, SAD. And these acronyms are actually kind of appropriate because it is MAD and it is SAD. And what does it mean? What does it consist of? Tons of sugar, tons of flour, refined carbohydrates, vegetable oils, and factory farmed animals. These are the things that are making us sick. These are the things that are causing chronic diseases. Where did this diet come from? Why do we have it? Well, it was caused by industrialization. What changed? Well, we went from whole foods to refined foods, from complexity, a complex diet, to simplicity. We used to eat many, many more kinds of food, different kinds of plants, different kinds of vegetables, and now our diet is very, very limited. We went from food quality to food quantity. And if you just compare us to Europe, we spend, Americans on average, about 10% of our income on food. So we're looking for quantity, and we're looking for cheap ingredients, cheap food. Whereas in Europe, they spend on average about 20% of their income on food. We went from leaves, from eating lots of green leafy vegetables, to seeds, to eating primarily 4 seeds: rice, corn, soy, and wheat, and went from a food culture to a food science world, where food culture used to be you eat what your family ate, what your great-grandparents ate, what your mother told you to eat, and that was pretty good. Everyone kind of knew what worked. And we moved from there to a food science culture where we're listening to experts all the time trying to guide us through these decisions now in these diets, because there's so much fake food out there and there's so much confusing information, contradictory information. So where should we start? Let's start just by cutting out the poison. Let's start eliminating and simplifying our diet. What are the things that we know we just should not eat? What are the things that cause a toxic response, that trigger a toxic response in your body? Start paying attention to things that you eat that just make you feel kind of sick, or maybe bother your stomach, or make you feel cloudy in your mind. Just start being very conscious about what you're putting in your mouth and how that's making you feel. And there are some things that are universal. Like, all of us should really stop eating things like sugar and flour and trans fats. Like, we just don't need it. It's not good for anyone. But then there's also an element of bio-individuality, where there's certain things that maybe I can tolerate that you cannot, or things that bother you that don't bother me. So these would be things like levels of gluten sensitivity or lactose intolerance, and those are things we want to take note of. And beware of fake food. If you start looking at your food labels and see what's in the food. I mean, it really, we're going to talk about this later, but you don't want to be buying anything with more than like 5 ingredients in it. Stick with the real food. the stuff on the outside lanes of the grocery store, and stay away from the middle aisles. The outside lanes, the perimeter of the grocery stores always have the healthiest, freshest food because they need to cart it in and out quickly because it spoils. And notice that when food can spoil quickly, that means it's full of real, live nutrients, right? It's nutrient dense. And that's the stuff that we want. So let's recognize again, like all hours for sleep are not created equal, all calories are not created equal either. There are two big hypotheses in the world of nutrition, energy balance hypothesis and the metabolic hormonal hypothesis. And they're kind of competing views of the world. The energy balance hypothesis says all calories are created equal, and essentially all calories our bodies process all calories the same, as if our bodies are a vacuum. But our bodies are not vacuums, right? We're complex biological systems, and different foods, different ingredients pull different metabolic and hormonal triggers and switches in our bodies and cause us to respond in different ways. So the latter, the metabolic hormonal hypothesis, is really prevailed in recent years and is proven by the Harvard milkshake study, where basically two groups of people were given milkshakes with the same number of calories and the same level of macros. But macros, I mean carbs, protein, and fats. But the only difference between the two kinds of milkshakes is one group had fast-acting carbs and one group had slow-acting carbs. What they found is the group with the fast-acting carbs actually had a massive blood sugar spike and then crash. So that caused them to be hungry sooner, which would lead them to overeat, right? Because then you're having another meal sooner than your body actually needs the nutrition. And this leads to obesity and diabetes, and it messes with your insulin. And there are also really interesting fMRI brain scan results. So when you eat fast-acting carbs, whether it's sugar or white processed carbs, this white flour, it lights up our nucleus accumbens, which is your pleasure reward center in your brain. And this center lights up literally in the exact same way as if someone has taken drugs or someone is addicted to gambling and it starts gambling or thinks about gambling. So we're basically spiking the center in our brain, and it's causing us to have cravings and to be addicted to foods. Again, being addicted to food tied with the blood sugar spike, which causes us to be hungry sooner, is going to lead to obesity, diabetes, which are precursors to all the chronic diseases as well. So we want to be really, really present about what these different kinds of carbs are doing, not just to our bodies, but to our brains. And the last piece is the group with the fast-acting carbs, when your nucleus accumbens lit up, it makes it more difficult for them to focus, to have strong attention, to learn, and to have high levels of willpower. So think about that. Think about how what you're eating is going to affect your ability to perform mentally at your firm for your clients. If you're eating the fast-acting carbs at lunch, you're going to not be able to focus as well. You're going to have a lack of attention when you get back from lunch. Sorry, I tried to save the nutrition portion for later in the webinar. I know a lot of people are having lunch now. Hopefully, I didn't ruin your lunch. So let's talk about cravings, right? So we just talked about you're triggering the reward center, the addiction center in your brain. So you've been having cravings for food. You know, you feel like you really want sugar or flour. You want that donut or cookie. And it's like, why do I want that? I know that's not good for me. We've all felt that, right? It's not your fault, right? This is your brain telling you that you really need this thing. So it's really difficult to override this center with willpower. It's possible, but it's really difficult. It's better just to sort of slowly break the addiction, wean yourself off of the fast-acting carbs and the flour and the things that are making you addicted. So it wasn't your fault before, but now that you have this information, you're kind of responsible. So what's going on with sugar? Why do I keep talking about sugar? Well, let's look at the history. In the year 1700, the average person, and this was in England, consumed about 5 pounds of sugar per year. And in the year 2010, the average person consumes 150 pounds of sugar per year. That's a 30 times increase. And this is the most significant change to the human diet since the invention of fire. Since the ability to cook food, this increase in the sugar consumption that we have has been the biggest change in the human diet. So be very, very conscious of this. Like, we didn't evolve to eat sugar in these quantities, to eat it separated from being packaged like fruit is with a fiber packet, which allows it to be digested more slowly, to enter our bloodstream more slowly, so our blood sugar doesn't spike as quickly and then make us hungry sooner. And also flour. You know, white flour didn't exist until industrialization. All flour before that was stone ground, so there was a different kind of flour because they couldn't physically separate the germ from the kernel. The germ has all the nutrition. The germ has the omega-3s, the fiber, and it's what allows the flour, again, to be more slowly digested. It doesn't spike your blood sugar as quickly. It's how nature intended it. With the invention of the Industrial Revolution, we have hand rollers, and hand rollers allow us to separate the germ from the kernel. And suddenly it changes the composition of the flour, and it was a good thing for business because it removed all of the nutrients, basically, which are the things that spoil, as I mentioned. So the more nutritionally dense something is, the faster it's going to spoil. By removing the germ, we just had the kernel, and this was great for packaging, for shipping across the world, for merchants, but not great for our health. So these two things, massive increase in the consumption of sugar and the invention of white flour, have led directly to our increase in diabetes and chronic diseases in the last 150 years. So one place where we get tons of sugar that people don't really realize is in beverages. So I want you to rethink your drink. What are you drinking? Stop drinking sugar. If you're thirsty, drink water, drink some coffee, tea, whatever, but be careful that it's very, very easy to consume tons of sugar in a drink in a couple of gulps. If you look at some of these, the measurements of how much sugar are in these different drinks here in the image, it's pretty astounding. So we all know, you know, soda has sugar, sports drinks, energy drinks, etc. But something that people don't realize is that diet soda, or anything really with artificial sweeteners, are basically just as bad as real sugar, because artificial sweeteners have the exact same effect on your body as real sugar. Artificial sweeteners are going to trigger insulin. It can lead to developing diabetes. You want to be very careful. It's more intense. The flavor is more intense than real sugar. So you get used to these artificial sweeteners, and then you eat a piece of fruit, which is, you know, basically the sugar we're supposed to be getting. It's nature's candy. And it doesn't taste sweet to you because you become used to these artificial sweeteners. So just be careful of that. Be cognizant of what you're drinking. There was also a study published in the Journal of General Dentistry, and it compared the mouths of cocaine users, meth users, and habitual diet soda drinkers, and it found the exact same level of tooth erosion in each of them. So again, this stuff is not good for you, not good for your smile. Let's talk about fats. Fat's gotten a bad rap in recent years. It's making a little bit of a comeback. It's kind of rehabbing its image a little bit. But we want to know the best way to increase the level of our health through nutrition is increase the amount of good fats that you're eating. So the good fats are the monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats. These are things like olives and olive oil, coconuts, coconut oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, fresh wild animals. This is a really important part, a really important concept. So the major difference between fresh and wild animals, whether we're talking about grass-fed beef or wild caught salmon versus farmed, and the grass-fed beef versus factory farmed beef where it's being fed grains and corns, not part of its natural diet. What the animals are consuming directly impacts the quality and the content of the meat, of the flesh of which you'll consume. And when these animals are in these farmed environments, these factory farmed environments, they're not eating their natural diet, and this changes the composition of omega-3s to omega-6s in the actual flesh. And so omega-3s are great because they're anti-inflammatory. Omega-6s are bad because they're inflammatory. We want to have a balance of both, but our ratio of omega-3s to 6s used to be something like 1-to-1, which is great. Now it's more like 16-to-1 in favor of the omega-6s. And we already talked about inflammation, right? You're eating these things that are causing inflammation in your body. Inflammation is a stress response, and it leads to all those chronic diseases that we looked at in that last image. So You know, if you're going to be eating animal products, you really want them to be fresh, wild, pasture-raised, grass-fed, all the keywords, and also organic. One more thing you have to be careful with factory farmed animals is that they're injected with hormones and antibiotics, and those things are passed along into you. It makes the animals unhealthy, and you get that stuff when you eat the animals. So stay away from trans fats. Those are man-made. Anything that's partially hydrogenated, you just want to get rid of. Go home, empty out your kitchen, get rid of anything that has partially hydrogenated anything. And in the middle, I wrote bad, but some level of saturated fat is not terrible for you. So I want to talk about your second brain. So we all know we have a brain in our heads, but did you know you also have a brain in your gut? Your gut has 100 million neurons. Neurons are brain cells. So what are those doing in my gut? Actually, your gut communicates with your brain. And any irritation in your gastrointestinal system, it sends signals to your central nervous system that trigger mood changes, anxiety, and even depression. So what you want to do is be very conscious of what you're eating and that you're not irritating your gut, because that will directly impact the way you feel throughout the day. Sorry, and also get present to your gut. This is an amazing stat that I learned in the last year. Your gut produces 90% of the serotonin in your entire body. Serotonin, we all know, is the happiness molecule. It's the thing that your body naturally produces. You want to enhance your ability to produce this naturally. So what can we eat that really increases our gut health so that we're not feeling anxious, we're not feeling depressed, our mood is stable, and we're maximizing our ability to feel good naturally through the release of serotonin. So there are two lists here, and if it's a little bit difficult to read, I'm going to read off the list to you. So you really want to eat fresh vegetables, whole fruits, not fruit juices, but whole fruits, herbs, spices, teas, probiotic or fermented foods are really great. They reduce excitability in your brain. Wild, pasture-raised, grass-fed animals, other healthy fats, ancient grains and beans, red wine, and dark chocolate. They're great for your gut. What you really don't want to eat are refined vegetable oils, refined carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, dairy in general. So if you're having stomach issues or stress or anxiety, consider cutting out dairy altogether. Anything factory farmed, animals that are farmed or factory farmed, any added sugar or trans fats. So just remember, the food on the right affects your mood and can cause anxiety and depression. I want you to really, really get that. So what you're eating directly impacts not just your physical health, your body, but how you feel. Make that connection. So here are some fun food rules. If your great-great-grandmother didn't eat it, you shouldn't either. If she wouldn't recognize it in the store, don't buy it. The longer the shelf life, the shorter your life. And if it has more than 5 ingredients, don't eat it. If a third grader can't pronounce it, don't eat it. If it's a plant, eat it. If it's made in a plant, don't eat it. Reduce steps from farm to fork, shorten that journey. And the final rule, of course, is break the rules once in a while. So finally, let's get back to, we keep coming back to this again and again. It's all based on the science of building new habits, and that's why we're going back to look at our why, to move from a chore to a gift, and to understand the importance of willpower in building these habits. Another education tool, learning technique, is to repeat things. So I'm intentionally going over these at the end of each segment to help you to commit this to longer-term memory. But yeah, make an immediate, concrete connection between what you're eating and how you're going to feel immediately, not some distant point in the future, but today. We also want to go from chore to a gift. Give yourself the gift of healthy food, of feeling good, of taking care of your health. And if you're buying food for your family, if you're responsible for feeding other people, make sure you're getting quality ingredients. Make sure you're buying the foods that are going to optimize their energy as well. And you can start to educate them about some of the stuff that you learned here today. Finally, willpower. We want to play offense, not defense. We want to buy our willpower at the grocery store. So just don't buy the stuff that you know you shouldn't be eating. Once you buy it and it's in your house, you're gonna end up eating it. All right, so that takes us through the 4 segments of personal energy management, optimizing your eating, sleeping, moving, and meditation. We really want to embody our true potential as lawyers, as human beings, so we can be more, so we have more to serve our law firms, our clients, our partners, and our families, and the community and society as well. So let's make that connection about what we're doing on a daily basis, our habits with respect to eating, sleeping, moving, and meditation. I just covered the tip of the iceberg today. This is a very, very quick run through, and try to move from knowledge to wisdom. Wisdom is when you actually apply something that you learned. Knowledge would just be knowing it. So please pick up a tip that you learned here today and implement it in your life and have fun with it. Finally, for a free copy of the slides or to learn more about me and my work, visit my website, www.samirghia.com. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ashleah. I want to thank you all so much for attending today. I had a blast. This was lots of fun. I'd love to continue the conversation. I know I didn't get to any questions today, but I think I received them all in my email, and I intend on responding to all of them. And you can also type in questions and stuff on my website, and let's continue the conversation. But thanks for your attention. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thanks so much, Samir, and thank you everyone for listening. And as we're mindful of your time, we will end the webcast, but we do hope you tune in for the next webinar scheduled for next Wednesday, and it will be a mindfulness webinar scheduled, presented by Professor Rogers from the University of Miami. So thank you all. Have a great day, and keep up the health and wellness. Thanks. Bye-bye.